Between a grand total of 4 shows, NBC's One Chicago franchise has broadcast nearly 40 seasons of television so far, and 3 of the 4 are just months away from returning with new episodes. While several actors, such as Chicago Fire's Taylor Kinney, Chicago PD's Jason Begg, and Chicago Med's S. Epitha Murkerson, have been on board from the very beginning of their various shows, other characters have disappeared out of nowhere, with nary an explanation for where they went. The 4th series, Chicago Justice, was cancelled after just 1 season, and even then, certain series regulars were simply moved over to other shows within the Dick Wolf TV universe. One Chicago fans are fortunate enough that departing actors often stay on, or return, long enough for an on-screen farewell. Monica Raymond and Alberto Rosen did it on Fire, Jesse Lee Soffer did it, and Laroyce Hawkins will soon do it, on PD, and Colin Donnell and Norma Cooling did it on Med. Then, there are cases like Chicago PD's John Seda, whose exit was slightly set up in the Season 5 finale, and details about Antonio's absence were delivered without Seda appearing on screen. Antonio's exit was explained suitably enough on PD and Fire that he didn't exactly disappear without a trace, and he's an example of how One Chicago can set up an exit and then explain it afterward. Other characters are written out like afterthoughts, if they're given even that much. Vanessa Rojas, Lisseth Chavez, Chicago PD movie stills. Officer Vanessa Rojas joined the intelligence unit in Season 7 of Chicago PD, and she quickly formed bonds with Upton and Atwater. She gained a reputation within the unit as a talented undercover officer, a cop still learning some of the ropes, and the biggest fan of Upstead, aka the then unconfirmed romance between Upton and Halstead. Season 7 ended without any sign that Rojas wouldn't be back, but Season 8 arrived with the officer nowhere to be seen, and no explanation was ever given for where she went. At the time, showrunner Rick Eade addressed why Rojas was neither seen nor mentioned in the Season 8 premiere, telling TV Line, "It's possible that her exit would have actually been set up if the COVID-19 pandemic hadn't forced an early end to Season 7, but the show ultimately never explained where Rojas went." It seems unlikely that Chicago PD Season 14 will deliver an answer so many years after she was written out. Leaving PD wasn't the end of Lisseth Chavez's time playing a cop on television, however, she has been a series regular on ABC's The Rookie since Season 5. Crockett Marcel, Dominic Raines, Chicago Med movie stills DB. Dominic Raines joined the cast of Chicago Med in Season 5 as Crockett Marcel, the medical drama's new main surgeon after the exit of Connor Rhodes. In true One Chicago fashion, Crockett would engage in a few workplace romances before his exit was announced between the end of Season 9 and the premiere of Season 10. The 9th season ended with Crockett ready for a break from the action at Gaffney Med, since his decision about a young boy's need for a liver transplant resulted in the boy's death and his father's suicide. Not only did he feel guilty for that ordeal, but it triggered his lingering trauma from the death of his own daughter. Still, the finale didn't indicate that Crockett would be gone for good, and the news broke about Dominic Raines leaving the cast over summer hiatus. The Season 10 premiere established via a very brief conversation that he'd moved to Boston for a fresh start after the events of Season 9. The 10th season picked up with a new showrunner, which could have contributed to Raines and Crockett being written out. There was technically an explanation for his disappearance, but hardly enough of one for somebody who had been a main character for years. Emily Foster, Annie Alonza, Chicago Fire movie stills DB. Chicago Fire has cycled through many paramedics in the years since Monica Raymond left, and Emily Foster was the first one to join Brett after she lost Dawson as a partner. Foster had a juicy backstory, with Brett quickly learning that she had been a surgical resident at a Chicago hospital before she was kicked out of the program for cheating on her boards. Foster initially decided not to take her chance to return to her career as a doctor in Season 7, but changed her mind towards the end of Season 8. All signs did point to her deciding to leave Firehouse 51 to pursue becoming a doctor again, so Fire did set up her departure better than most characters who never returned after a finale. At the same time, signs also seemed to point toward Foster just moving over to One Chicago's main hospital, with Annie Alonza switching from working as a series regular on Fire to a series regular on Chicago Med. Instead, she was never seen again after the pandemic shutdowns forced an early end to Season 7. Kiana Cook, Toya Turner, Chicago PD movie stills. Toya Turner joined the cast of Chicago PD as a series regular for Season 12, and Kiana Cook quickly adjusted to the intelligence unit's tendency to cross lines in the line of duty. Cook formed a strong bond with Torres, and the police drama spent multiple episodes fleshing out her backstory and building up her character. She was last seen attending Burgess and Ruzek's wedding in the Season 12 finale, with no indication that she wouldn't be back. Turner's exit was announced during the summer hiatus ahead of Season 13. Her absence was at least addressed more than Rojas had been. Voight revealed in the season 13 premiere that Cook had taken a position in the 17th District after the intelligence unit had been disbanded due to their misdeeds in the previous season's finale. That said, Voight was able to bring the rest of the unit back together before the end of the premiere, and there was no reason why he couldn't have gotten Cook back as well. The explanation for her absence didn't tie off the loose ends for her character, and that could have been fixed if PD had brought Turner back for at least a cameo. She wouldn't have gotten a send-off quite like longtime star Jesse Lee Soffer did, when he returned for a few episodes before leaving PD as a series regular, but a scene or two like Gallo got on Chicago Fire could have been enough that she wouldn't feel like she disappeared without a trace. Maggie Lockwood, Marline Barrett, Chicago Med Movie Stills DB. Marline Barrett's charge nurse Maggie Lockwood was a main character on Chicago Med from the very beginning through to season 10, and she was still in the thick of the action when the 10th season ended. News then broke.